Hello and welcome to Convinced Catholicism, a place for all things Catholic. Today I have Spiritual Steps to Christmas, a daily devotional throughout Advent, and this is by Monsignor Aloysius Coogan. This is a book that was previously published in the 1950s, and it's been reprinted and republished here by Tan Publications, which is, I would say, leans traditional Benedictine publisher, which they are, I would say, most famous for the Baltimore, the little office of Baltimore, which is I guess you could say, the primer for a traditional 1962 breviary. Okay, so this book is a devotional, as the title suggests, and this is designed to reflect on some of the specific prayers said during Advent. And I want to remind viewers that Advent is one of the two so-called purple seasons in which the Christian faithful, whether they are lay or ordained, are called to pray, fast, and give alms. Okay? Mother Church has, let's call it, repressed the fasting aspect of Advent, but you'll see here in this book the concept of the Ember days, and it's explained here in this book, and I'm excited to get through this book. Just as a full disclosure, this book was sent to me by Tan, I think maybe 1 or 2 years ago, so this review is slightly late, and you'll notice that I'm releasing this in mid-November. Why? Because if anyone wants to buy this book, I want to give them enough time so that they can have the entirety of Advent to go through this book. And it also goes through Christmas Day and Epiphany Sunday. So you'll have those days to reflect as well. The book, not that the size of this book really matters, because really this should be in one place in your house, and you should set a specific time in your day to pray from this book. The nice idea of the purple liturgical seasons is that you're not, people have this idea of, I'll give up this during Lent, and then on Easter I'll go back to whatever it was I was doing. You're supposed to continually build and compound those better habits, those sacrifices. And so while you're not going to be praying from this every day after Christmas, this should be a nice habit of maybe doing a devotional beyond what it is you're already doing. But not that the size matters for this, but 5.5 inches wide, 7.5-ish, less than that, inches tall, and 3/4 inches thick. Okay, and so let's get through the book. It's obviously done up in these nice Christmas colors. I can very much imagine somebody reading this with a cup of coffee or a nice wine or a tea or something like that, sitting in their armchair reading this. It's clearly done up to inspire that kind of setting. It's very aesthetically beautiful. I think that everything that Tan Publications does is very nice. It's nicely bound and all. I think it's a glued binding. I don't think it's sewn in any way, but it's nice. It's got a nice presentation page. We can see here that it was originally, like I mentioned, from 1953, if it will focus. There we go, 1953. And we have here a preface, which we'll go over briefly. Sundays and then the weekdays, all in order. So you just really need this one ribbon to save your page. And then we see that we see Christmas Eve, the Feast of the Nativity, and the Epiphany there. So the preface, the theme of this book suggests that man has gotten away from the true nature of Christmas. Today, Christmas is celebrated without Christ in many quarters. Christ means Christ's Mass, but the Protestant revolt has denied the true sacrifice of the Mass. It has uprooted his altar and replaced it with a pulpit. There are some who profess to be ministers of Christ and yet deny his divinity, etc., etc. Right? We can see some footnotes, and there's footnotes throughout this book. But we can see here nicely. So even though that this book was created in 1953, it's been and can still be used for a traditional Latin Mass. For those who are using the Novus Ordo as their regular go-to Sunday, we see here the A, B, and C cycles all the way up to 2050, okay? For those who are not familiar, the Gospels are set at a 3-year cycle, A, B, and C. And we can see here how that works out. And so it's 2024, which is a C cycle. And we can see that the first Sunday of Advent will be December 1st. And then we can see the second Sunday will actually be the Immaculate Conception, December 15th, and then all the way to Christmas Day. Right? So this will give us some time. We have here notes. The A, B, and C, the letters indicated after the years, refer to the corresponding cycle of readings from the lectionary. Advent 2019 is the example, up to Advent 2021. NB, the extraordinary form of the Roman Rite, does not have cycles, but has the same readings every year for its lectionary. As this work was written in 1953, all references to readings for the Mass and Divine Office made in this work refer to the Roman liturgy prior to the Second Vatican Council. But for those of you who use the Novus Ordo, I don't think that that should be a deterrent, considering the fact that this can be seen as a supplement, you know? So just because the readings for that Sunday do not match the one that you're attending does not necessarily mean that this book is automatically useless. I think that you can certainly use this book to get a much fuller understanding of the preparation for Christmas in the scriptures. And by the way, I should mention that in the Byzantine Church, the readings for Advent and Lent are very Old Testament heavy, because it's trying to show that Christ fulfilled the prophecies of the Old Testament. We have here fourth week of Advent. The length for the season of Advent varies. Fourth Sunday of Advent can be as early as December 18th, a full week before Christmas, as in 2016 and 2022, or not at all if it is on the latest date, December 24th, Christmas Eve. And more important is, as Christmas Eve is a more important liturgy as in 2017 and 2023. This is something that not a lot of Catholics today know about. It's the O antiphons. During the 8 days before Christmas, December 17th to 24th, the liturgy changes in an octave of preparation for Christmas Day. The traditional O antiphons, which give various prophesied titles of the Messiah in the Old Testament, are used during the evening prayer of the Liturgy of the Hours and the Alleluia verse before the Gospel reading at Mass. Additionally, special readings are used in this time. And then here we have what I was mentioning, the Ember days. So we can see here that these are days of fast and abstinence, and the purpose of their introduction, besides the general one intended by all prayer and fasting, was to thank God for the gifts of nature, to teach men to make use of them in moderation, and to assist the needy. They were definitely arranged and prescribed for the entire church by Pope Gregory, so only shortly after the schism, which, by the way, the Eastern Church goes from November 14th, which is the day of uploading, by the way, all the way to Christmas Eve, fasting, vegetarian and or vegan, okay? So fasting in the church predates the schism by a long shot. For the Wednesdays and Fridays and Saturdays after St. Lucy's, after Ash Wednesday, after Pentecost, and after the exaltation of the cross. So those are days that have been suppressed, I guess you could say, and not necessary anymore, but I invite you to maybe take on that challenge. I guess you could say I'm still used to trying to figure out when the Ember days are, and it's kind of too little too late for me, but maybe next liturgical season I might participate in those. And I'm just going to show you the first week of Advent just as a sample, and then I can talk about some of the different things that this book has to offer, including Christmas Day and Epiphany Sunday. So here we have the first Sunday of Advent, preparing for Christmas. Jesus said to his disciples, there will be a sign in the sun, so on and so forth. And then we can see here that there's a bit of a reflection. The first Sunday of Advent marks the beginning of the storytelling by narrating the anticipation of Christ's coming and by highlighting the story in the word, picture, so on and so forth. And then there will be footnotes, right? So you may or may not read the footnotes. And then we have this prayer, right? And then Monday, we have these reflections, right? So it may not necessarily have the gospel reading incorporated. And then we have this nice poem here. Tuesday, we have these references, etc. And I like that it has these kind of references to like these Christmas style stories. You know, like here we have, "Oh, look, Daddy," he cried. "God must have given his son, for he has a star." So nice little anecdotes. You know, Christmas is a time to tell stories, and at least the modern iteration of Christmas is. And I like that this book kind of reflects on that, but at the same time redirects us to what the meaning of Christmas is, the reason for the season, as a lot of people say. Wednesday, etc., etc. And then, of course, you have the Christmas season. So notice that the title says Daily Devotional Throughout Advent. Well, you get a little bit of bonus material. We have Christmas Eve. We also have Christmas, and then we have the Epiphany, right? The Feast of the Epiphany of the Lord. And yeah, this book is a nice little treat. Obviously, I'm putting this out because Advent is approaching, and I don't want to, put the video out while Advent is already going on, so that if people see this and they want to get it, they have, God willing, the entirety of Advent to go through it. I'm going to definitely pray through this book as much as I can. I think it's a nice little brief read. I can't imagine it would take more than 10 minutes. A link to it will be in the description. Thank you for Tan. Thank you to Tan for sending it. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Take care, and God bless.